Through storms, unshaken, unbowed. Through trials and verdicts, still standing proud. A titan in the tempest, against the raging crowd. He's got a vision for the future, gonna shout it aloud. Changing the wind, it's coming fast. A new foundation built to last. Cryptocurrency's the key. Make the big switch. Power to the people. Time to teach the rich.
My bad there. Had the mic turned off as I went to get started. Well, good morning and happy Trump Day to everyone, and welcome to the Crazy Cryptonaut channel. I am Zester, and I hope everyone is having an awesome Trump Day, hump day, a good week. My apologies to everyone before I start saying hellos. My apologies for missing the stream on Monday. I have had a compounding sequence of bad luck or of life trying to teach me about the passage of time, because I managed to hurt my ankle over the weekend. So I've actually got a bag of ice currently going on underneath the table on my ankle. And then Monday morning, I woke up and my computer was completely shot and kept continually shutting back down. And so I had to... I had a particularly unpleasant Monday morning as I, with my hurt ankle, had to take the computer, set it onto the table, break it apart, and put it back together in order to get it back and working. But everything is back to normal. I'm back, and so I hope everyone else is having a slightly luckier week so far than Zester is. But with that, that's why I wasn't here on Monday. My apologies for that one. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and start saying hello. We're going to jump into the news because we've got an interesting one, and then we've got to catch up on any questions that I missed from Monday. So, looking forward to the articles this morning. What's up? Welcome, Kukla. Happy Trump Day to you. Hey, happy Trump Day to you as well, Trish. And I noticed you talking in here, Trish. Coyotes stalking outside my backyard. Dogs going insane. Definitely stay safe. Keep all the pets safe there, Trish. I totally get it, though. Living out in the country, you get used to those type of things. Yeah, much more concerned about the mountain lions and bobcats. I would as well. Coyotes are coyotes are cowards. Mountain lions and bobcats, they don't have too much to be scared of. Gary 7. Hello, everyone. Almost missed today. I'm number 3 clicking the like. Thank you so much for making it here, Gary, and also for clicking the like button. Good morning, Crazy Chester. Welcome. Good morning there, Crypto Warden. Good morning, Doug. Gary, we've got a Gary joke of the morning. Dog catchers are getting a new pay system. They're getting paid by the pound. That's a good one, Gary. A good dad joke for the morning. All right. Hopefully, I just noticed that one, Kukla. Hopefully, my audio is coming through better. Good morning, Yukon. Good morning, Deborah. Grandma Sally. Good morning, Doug. Yes. Good morning, musical lady. And an important one before I get on to the news and all that. Please do remember that the content in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes and not intended to provide financial advice. Please consult with a financial professional before making investment decisions. Most definitely. Good morning, Mary Jones. Reno, good morning. It's going pretty well on my side now. I've got some good luck coming my way, I think. Michelle, good morning. Musical lady, looking forward to the crypto news from the NASDAQ and to get your input, Zester. This one is really funny, in all honesty. Really funny. Just because we've got the NASDAQ essentially investing in their own replacement. So yeah, I am definitely looking forward to jumping on that one. Good morning, Nancy. Nancy, I hope you are doing awesome. All right. Kukla, how are Tina, Tino, and Tommy? They are doing particularly well. they have definitely been a little confused about why I'm not up and around as much the past couple of days, but they have been helping me out along the way. Praying for Zest for better days. I appreciate it, Coop. I definitely appreciate it, but I think that it was nothing more than I've got my 33rd birthday coming up next month, and I think life was just reminding me that that I need to be a little more careful as time passes when it comes to thinking I can just get a little injury and it not be a big deal. So I think I'm looking at it that way. All right, though. Let's go ahead and jump to our news because I want to get to that NASDAQ news quickly. And then we have a very interesting one that Pops actually talked about that really, well, remember our presentation last week that I had done talking about on the original Mark Z in regards to cryptocurrency and a new financial system and what we're seeing occur? Well, Pops talked a little bit about the Russian minister's conversation and interview. And well, I'm going to dig into that one a little bit more as well. So we've got a few articles I'm excited about. But as always, let's start with where our prices are at for the day, because we are back over a $4 trillion market cap on the overall cryptocurrency markets. We got Bitcoin sitting at 113,864, Ethereum 4,400, XRP. We are back at our $3. It does feel kind of nice to at least be back there, although I would appreciate I'd appreciate a lot higher, but it is nice to be sitting back around 3. Overall, the market has been fairly slow in terms of an overall recovery from the drop because we've continued to get pretty poor economic data coming out, and that tends to spook most investors. But for the interesting one, for certain, one that I definitely think is particularly ironic, the NASDAQ seeks access to Gemini's crypto services via investment. Gemini has secured NASDAQ as an investor in its $317 million IPO, with NASDAQ purchasing 50 million shares as part of a strategic partnership. And so, U.S. stock exchange giant NASDAQ has reportedly formed a strategic partnership with the Winklevoss-founded crypto exchange Gemini to gain access to its custody and staking services. And so, this one definitely raises a lot of questions we've had from the stock market, from traditional finance. We've been told for so long, so many years, that cryptocurrency is a fad, it's a scam, it's a whole bunch of all this stuff because, well, they wanted to keep the power. And now it would appear as if this is a pretty clear sign of them waving the white flag and going ahead and jumping on board. Because we are, and we've already heard this one from the NASDAQ and others, because this comes right after a report from the NASDAQ announcing a major move into tokenized securities or blockchain-based versions of traditional stocks, as was reported on Monday of this week. And so we have seen the SEC say that they plan on going through and tokenizing equity securities, ETFs, tokenized stocks. Now we have, within the same week, as a matter of fact, 24 hours after this announcement, we also get the announcement of the partnership between the NASDAQ and Gemini exchanges. Remember the Winklevosses? The Winklevosses are the ones that are quite famous for being the guys who actually had the idea and invented Facebook, which was then stolen by Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg had to pay the Winklevoss twins like $115 million on account of this theft. The Winklevoss twins took all of that and threw all of their money into Bitcoin when it was extremely, extremely young. This took their $100 and some million fortune into the realm of many, many, many billions of dollars. And then they opened up the Gemini exchange, just for a little bit of a history lesson on that one, because I do think that it's interesting, and I think that it matters who is doing it, and the fact that the SEC is partnering with them, I do believe it is important. And so the stock exchange filed with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission to amend security rules to enable the trading of securities in tokenized form. And so the NASDAQ has actually been filing with the SEC in order to allow them to start tokenizing all of the stocks inside of the exchange. NASDAQ argued that such products would be available on established and regulated market players, opposing its siloed trading venues. It also expressed concerns over numerous offerings of tokenized U.S. stocks currently trading in Europe. That would be via Robinhood at the moment. Now, Gemini has been operating such an offering in Europe as well, rolling out tokenized stocks for shares like Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy locally back in June. Traditional financial rails are hard to access and in need of modernization, the company said at the time. Mile High Trish, is this just another way for the SEC to take control of crypto? I suppose that would be a way of looking at it, or specifically taking over the idea of tokenized stocks and tokenized financial vehicle, any tokenized security. And essentially it appears, and the SEC actually gave more information on this one if we look towards another article, because the SEC has been very, very, very busy putting out statements this week. And the SEC chair says that most tokens are not securities, then it backs the super app platforms. And so it seems as if we were to take these announcements and we were to really place all of them together and then take them from that context, it would seem as if that what the SEC is doing is that they are essentially hammering out what is going to be their job in the new financial system. And the SEC appears to be really focusing on the idea of they will be inside of the world of tokenized stocks and tokenized securities. And so if you're tokenizing a stock, if you're tokenizing any kind of security, then the SEC is going to be in charge. If it is just a cryptocurrency and it does not have anything of that nature, then it appears as if they're saying, okay, that's going to be the CFTC's job. And that is what it would appear if we take all of these into context, because they're saying, hey, we're not in charge of this other stuff. We are not in charge of crypto tokens because they're not securities. But they're saying, okay, over here, though, well, these are securities. We are in charge of these. This is going to be what our job is going into the future. It's going to be regulating tokenized stocks, tokenized ETFs, things of that nature. It's going to be the SEC's domain. Whether that is technically increasing their power or not, we're really going to have to see, I imagine, on that one. We're going to have to see whether that ends up resulting in the SEC having more control or less over the financial system. Musical Lady, the courts decided that tokenized stocks are now considered a security instead of a commodity. And people in crypto community on X was saying that this is a good court decision. Your thoughts on this, Zester? Musical Lady. And so the reason that this is viewed as being very important comes back to essentially this article about how most crypto tokens are not securities. And essentially, Musical Lady, many people are excited because, well, tokenized stocks are a security. So it's a logical argument. It is a security. It fits the definition of that. But what they're more excited about is really that it didn't include anything else. And so the fact that the courts did just say, okay, tokenized stocks are a security, but we didn't have any rulings in regards to tokens. And so this allows for the SEC to really get out there and kind of create laws through regulation. And in that regard, the SEC appears very, very concentrated on most cryptos are not securities. Tokenized stocks are securities. They're going to be in the SEC's purview. What really is exciting is that means that most of the other tokens, most all the rest of the cryptocurrencies that are out there, Musical Lady, they're going to be regulated by the CFTC, which is what we want. We want to be viewed as commodities. It's a much better tax structure, and it fits a lot better, in all honesty. And it also is a huge issue because securities and everything of that nature, those require, well, you need to have, you have to be an accredited investor to participate in certain securities. You need to have a certain amount of all of this other stuff. Essentially, if you're viewed as a security, there are a whole lot more regulatory barriers, and it keeps the small man, it keeps the average Joe out of the system. When you think about commodities, think about gold and silver. Think about the way that gold and silver is something that everyone is capable of participating in. And we want to be viewed as gold and silver. But tokenized stocks are obviously a security. They need to be regulated by the SEC or by, not that we need the SEC, in all honesty. We could definitely do with an overhaul on that one. Hey, good morning, Jeremy. Good morning, Freedom Forge Coffee Company. And yes, indeed, got the shirt on this morning for certain. And I haven't finished my methylene blue yet, but especially with the ankle and everything, I've been making certain to be on top of my regimens in the morning. Need all the help recovering and healing I can get. Musical lady, that helps a lot. Thanks for the clarification, Zester, on the tokenized securities. That makes sense. Well, first of all, you're quite welcome, musical lady. I hope that I did simplify that one, because it is it's a nuanced, because really what it comes down to, it seems like it wouldn't be important. It's tomato, but because of the existing legal structure for the financial system, we really care about that tomato distinction, because we do not want to have accredited investing and all of these other things in order to participate in, say, Pax Gold. We don't want that to be something that is completely kept away from the average person. We want that to be viewed as a commodity. We want that to be viewed as something we're all capable of participating in. And so it is. Deborah Muse Wolf, is the Gemini IPO something that retail folks can participate in? Deborah Muse Wolf, unfortunately, because it's a private, an IPO, essentially you have to be an accredited investor. And so you're most likely going to need to be a millionaire in order to participate. I have had someone argue with me that technically you don't have to be a millionaire to be an accredited investor, and that is a distinction without a difference. You've got to have a heck of a lot more money than I have if you want to be considered an accredited investor. And so I just kind of exaggerated a bit. It is hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting inside of a bank account is what's necessary to get that. All right. Michelle Zester, would you give a quick rundown of Glint, please, sir? Okay. And so, Michelle, essentially what Glint is doing is they are moving towards a blockchain system, but they are in many ways kind of offering a tokenized version or an entirely gold-backed version of a bank account. As we start to look towards the new financial system, we're going to see this moved over to the blockchain in the form of tokenized gold, tokenized silver, etc. But I'm a very big fan of what Glint has currently going on in regards to it. It's a very, very cool system. Essentially, all it is, though, is that your money, your gold, is just being allowed to be liquid. You're able to spend it. You're able to buy and hold gold, but also be able to spend that gold. In Glint's case, you're going through a centralized authority. Glint is that centralized authority. They're the ones that are verifying all of the behind-the-scenes ongoings. But I do know, actually, that Glint is moving towards a blockchain system. And so I would expect in the coming years that you're actually going to see Glint operating in more of a fashion similar to like Pax Gold, which we have talked about a few times, and I've used it as really an example. It's probably the best example right now of how the new financial system is going to work, is really Pax Gold. But Glint is another great way of really explaining how the new financial system is going to work. Essentially, Glint is already operating a microcosm, a micro version of the new financial system, where you are capable of literally sitting there, spending your money, buying things, transacting, but at the same time, those transactions are not in the form of gold, but they are backed by gold. It's still a digital transaction, but it's a digital transaction that is backed by real world assets, in this case, gold. And so it really is a great way of looking at the way that we're going to be operating in the future. Would be Glint, and then I guess Pax Gold would be like the next little step. Essentially, if we were to look at it as a progressional step towards a new financial system, Glint would be our baby's first steps, and I guess Pax Gold might be the kid's first day of kindergarten if we were to look at it from an evolution of that nature. It's extremely exciting. I do really, really like Glint. I really like the guys over there behind it. I think that they need to be very, very, very flexible and very adaptive, because essentially the Glint system is great right now, but it will be antiquated in comparison to a blockchain version of the same idea. But I know that they're already working on that. So I think Glint is going to be in a great situation on that front. Michelle, would you compare the Glint card to a credit card, debit card, or a prepaid card? Michelle, it would be more like a combination of a debit and a prepaid card, at least in terms of the version of the way that most people have been using it. I know that there are some options where you could potentially have used it in a form that would be more in line with credit or debt. But essentially, the way that I know everybody that has a Glint card, it operates very much like a debit or a prepaid card. All right. Ah, yes, no, I do. I love Kukla's new design on the t-shirt. Definitely. All right. Let's jump to our next articles, guys. All right, I got a little thrown all around because we had all of these articles really kind of combined together in the moment. We've got so much going on from the SEC. Definitely very, very, very interested to see where this NASDAQ partnership goes. I imagine that it is only going to be the beginning of announcements coming out from the quote-unquote stock exchanges in regards to them tokenizing their offerings. All right, though, going over to this one, this was a very, 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 very interesting take coming from Anton Kolbiakov, Vladimir Putin's senior advisor, in regards to what he believes the United States is currently doing with its gold and stablecoins. What he alleges is that the United States is essentially going to try to force the entire world into moving over everything over to stable coins, tokenized gold and silver, things of that nature, and that the United States is going to use this to essentially massively devalue our $35 trillion debt. We know it's more than 35 trillion, but that was the number he used. And that we're going to essentially, U.S. government is going to use the stable coins and gold that it holds, and it's going to essentially play market manipulation in order to pay off the 35 trillion. And essentially, it's going to create a situation where the United States financial system starts over. And now these are directly his words that he presented on the 8th. And so this is an extremely, extremely interesting video. I would say because of the translation and all of that, it's a little janky of a video, but I am posting that one into the chat for anyone who does want to listen along to it. And what it really, really, really immediately made me think about was our little breakdown on the quantum financial system and cryptocurrency and what has been ongoing. As a matter of fact, that was the first thing Pops said as he was going through it. He said, "It sounds like the Russian minister agrees with you, Zester, on the new financial system really being a matter of a blockchain financial system." And I know that was Pops's first thing after he went and listened through to it. Of course, we do have to take it with a grain of salt. It is naturally going to be a biased take on what the United States is currently doing, but from a legitimacy standpoint, or is it possible? What the Russian minister put out, is it possible? As a matter of fact, it is extremely, extremely possible. It is extremely doable based off of just what we have currently seen in regards to where the US government is focusing its efforts in regards to tokenization. And we know that the Genius Act in terms of stablecoins was a major push. We saw bipartisan support. And we saw bipartisan support, which, as I argued at the time of it occurring, was because it was such a good idea and such a factor that would strengthen the US dollar that essentially you couldn't be a Democrat or a Republican and not say yes. And if we were to take that and then we were to place it into the context of what our Russian minister said just 2 days ago, well, it would start to make sense why we're seeing bipartisan support for this. Maybe there is something to be said, because it does make sense what the Russian minister is stating. It is logical. It is very much possible. And this really does come down to that idea, though. He seems to be arguing that the United States federal government is trying to move towards essentially a version of a CBDC, central bank digital currency, something that would allow for the United States central bank to essentially manipulate the value of the US dollar globally with no one being able to do anything about it. And that seems to be where the Russian minister is kind of, that's what he's arguing the United States is doing, is that we're creating a hybridized central bank digital currency that will be entirely based around the United States dollar globally. And that by doing so, we will then be able to literally directly affect anyone. Because think about what we've talked about. We've already seen in Ecuador, they're putting stablecoin prices in the supermarket. And so the price of milk is now being tied directly to a United States stablecoin. As we see this continue to expand, which we're already seeing, more and more countries are starting to take and accept US-based stablecoins as their own currency. As we see this rise, we will see the United States be able to literally go, hey, Ecuador, the price of milk just doubled. And they'll just be able to do it. And that is where this fear from the Russian minister really is based upon. Now, I think that is very much a possibility. Now, that is not the world in which we want to be living in. That would be even more power being handed over to the central bank. What I do think is kind of the inverse of this, where it's more of the system, the decentralized system that we're looking for, is that as this spread of stablecoin occurs across the world, we will see a massive strengthening of the US dollar. If we don't do this in order to genuinely manipulate the markets in order to pay off our debt, well, then we're going in the right path. If what the Russian minister claims happens to end up being the exact strategy of the US government, well, it'll be great for us for a while. But essentially what we'll do is we'll force the world to pay our debt. And that is what would occur if that is to work out exactly as he described. We would, in one fell swoop, place the $35 trillion debt onto everyone besides ourselves. All right, I assume there's probably some interesting questions on account of all of that. Surfer44, what's up, man? Hope you're having a great morning, Surfer44. And Surfer says, Zester, your dad and Andy having bro time. Riz is cool, Zester. Oh, no, definitely. Definitely. Pop's got a star-studded cast for his stream this morning. Good morning, Vin. Good morning. Good morning. Yukon, Pat's Gold versus Glint. Well, really what it comes down to right now, Glint is far more usable. Far more usable. I can't use my Pax Gold in order to make a purchase in a grocery store today. I can use my Glint card. And so in many ways, right now, I would say that Glint is probably far more user-friendly than Pax Gold is. Yukon, where I would break that one down, is that Pax Gold is really more of the system that we're moving towards, where it's being accounted for in a decentralized fashion on the blockchain. And Glint will move towards that. Eventually, I believe that Glint will be operating a blockchain that will actually be verifying all of these precious metals and holdings. Reno Hightower, how's the progress coming along on this new financial system we have heard about for so long? Reno Hightower, actually, we have come a very, very, very long way. And so I had gone through and done this one with the AI into what is already currently in existence in regards to the new financial system moving over to the blockchain. And what we can see by going through it is that we have had a massive, massive amount of infrastructural work that has been ongoing for a while. And most of it, or much of it, I should say, is now going live. And so this one is very, very, very interesting. But everything from tokenized commercial bank money, we're seeing that in the form of Citi Token, HSBC, JP Morgan Coin, MasterCard, partnering with others. We see in terms of wholesale central bank rails for interbank settlement and central bank money. We see that progressing forward quickly. Interoperability fabrics, which will allow for this interoperability of the old system and the new system, bridging everything over. Essentially, we see that progressing quickly. Launching cashless, pretty big. We're seeing retail rails, which are going to allow for that immediate ability to spend this new currency at a retailer or whenever you so choose. We're seeing that with FedNow. And we're continuing to see the evolution of the quantum resistance. And so privacy and security of the blockchain systems are continuing to increase, and ZK, or zero knowledge proofs, is viewed as essentially a very, 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 very quantum safe option, while also continuing in other fashions quantum safety for future proof rails in the form of PQC standards and hybrid post-quantum TLS on the open internet. And then, of course, we see ISO 222 upgrades ongoing, with Fedwire migration having already occurred back in July of this year. And so, essentially, bottom line, the bottom line takeaway here was your hybrid QFS isn't sci-fi. Large chunks are already live across banks, FMIs, and big tech stacks. What's still forming is the common plumbing, the standards and interlinks, so that these pieces click together everywhere, not just inside of single banks or pilots. The examples above show the convergence is actively underway. And something else here that I thought was very interesting that I hadn't showed anyone yet was actually what happens when you click on her thought process going through. And so it actually gives a full breakdown of her going through and verifying every single one of her sources. And so she goes down. If she sees an issue with the source, she can't verify that the information is real and factual, well, then she doesn't present it to us. And so I thought this one was another very interesting. It was a very, very, very solid and comprehensive breakdown on how this new financial system is going to work. I was extremely impressed, but I have been working with this specific module for a very long time. So it is pretty on point. Catnip, what happens to XRP then? XRP is going to be a matter of the interconnection of these different blockchains. We're going to see XRP hopefully massively ramp up its tokenization efforts. We already see that in terms of its partnerships. We know already that we're able to purchase tokenized US Treasury bonds on the XRP ledger. We all know about RLUSD, the stablecoin on the XRP ledger. And as we continue to progress forward, I think we're going to hear more and more about XRP tokenizing precious metals and tokenizing things like debt, tokenizing data, tokenizing everything. We're going to live in a world where everything in the world that is ownable, anything that you can own, is going to be tokenized. If someone can actually own it, it will be tokenized, and debt can be owned. And so I think we really need to start thinking outside of the box when it comes to tokenization. It's not just going to be gold and silver and dollars. It's going to be everything. It's going to be your house. It's going to be your car. It's going to be your social security number. It's going to be your birth certificate. It's going to be everything. And that is a part of this great reset of the financial system. Very much is. Yukon, is there a Pax Silver? There is not a Pax Silver at the moment. There is not. All right. Good morning there, Shannon. Good morning. All right. Looking through. Laughing at some of the comments. Michelle, Trish, does Zester have a podcast about Gemini that I can watch? I do. I need to do one that's more comprehensive. Thank you so much, Trish, for posting that one. We did talk about it in that one. So that one we give a good idea, Michelle. But I think I do need to do another. I do think I need to do more of a comprehensive one on that one, because there's a lot of really interesting possibilities with the Gemini card that I really want to break down for everybody. Shannon Martins, Trish, for now I use the Coinbase card. It works good in Europe. Hey, that's awesome. Nancy K, will going to the bank for the RV, will the bank have things in place to make crypto for grannies simple to use? Nancy K, I really think it comes down to how much more of this plumbing manages to get built before then, or how much of this plumbing is already built. It just hasn't been made public. Because that is something that actually we started to have an issue as I was working with the AI. It seems very obvious that there's a lot of information out there that's just not being publicly discussed. Essentially, we're not being informed about a lot of the infrastructure that's being built in terms of the new financial system. So I think, Nancy, that it's really going to come down to that. But Nancy K, I do not expect that they are going to make it granny simple. I really don't think that they are. I think that essentially it's still going to be a matter of you going in. You're going to go ahead, do your exchange, and then you're going to then go out there and be looking for these things. And so I do think that folks are still going to end up back hanging out with Zester after the exchange, Nancy. I have a feeling that the Crazy Cryptonaut podcast is going to become a very, 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 very popular place post-exchange, because I have a feeling that they're not going to be ready to essentially have it be that easy. I could be wrong. I could be very wrong, Nancy, and I really think that the way that would occur would be how long the can gets kicked. And I don't know if the can's going to get kicked that long. So if the can goes and it rolls long enough, then I think that we will have that ability to essentially easily go to tokenized versions of everything. But I don't think that it's genuine. I don't think that the technology and infrastructure has been built. I don't believe that it's done. I think that it's further along than we're aware of. I think it's much further along, but I think that it is not complete. And so we're still going to go in, essentially exchange, and then be on our own in order to go out and make those type of investments. That's just my personal opinion, though, on that one. Entirely personal opinion. Zester, I have my Ledger wallet, but I'm being a slacker, moving my XRP off the exchange to my Ledger wallet. Surfer, I know that it can be intimidating, and it is. It is tempting to just leave it sitting there. I would say, Surfer, if it's not that much, or if it's smaller amounts, I wouldn't panic. But Surfer, I do think it might be time to start that process. I promise you that it is not as hard as it looks on that one. Not as hard as it looks on that one. All right. Nancy K, tomorrow appears like it could be a good day to kick the can. All right, though. Let's jump back over to our other articles, guys. And looking at the time, I know I'll continue answering questions till we run out, but may end the stream a little bit early today. I am kind of behind on everything with the injury and all of that. Catnip, what's the best ledger? And so I'm going to assume you're talking about Ledger hardware wallets. And so Catnip, it really comes down to you personally and where you like to interact with your crypto. I use Nano S Pluses. They're smaller. They have a very tiny screen. They can be difficult for some folks to use, but they only work when plugged into a device. They don't have a battery or Bluetooth. I like that. I do all of my crypto work on the computer. It's very easy for me. Now, the newer ledgers, the Ledger X, the Ledger Flex, the Ledger Stacks, they are much easier to use connected to a phone. They have Bluetooth, they have a battery, they have a bigger screen. They are much, much easier to use for many people, but they cost more. They are much pricier. The Ledger Flex and Stacks are a couple $100 a piece. I believe the Nano X is somewhere around like $150, $160, whereas your Nano S Plus is like $70. Once you use the code that I have in the description to get yourself some free Bitcoin back for it, it's a lot cheaper. And so essentially, you can kind of have that as a little bit of your thought process, catnip. I hope that helps. If you do everything on the computer and you're okay with small screens, the Nano S Plus is what I use. It's what I prefer. I like that it's simple. It's no problem at all. If you like to use your phone, you do want to have the Bluetooth or the battery capability, you want that bigger screen, then you may be better off going for like the Ledger Flex or the Ledger Stack or something of that nature. All right. Musical Lady, I'm glad that you will be here with us post RV. Zester, great, credible crypto news from you. Oh, I am definitely looking forward to it. And thank you so much, Musical Lady. I am definitely looking forward to it. All right. All right. Oh, wow. Yeah, Nancy K, FYI. My son turns 46 on October 8th. I'm 66 on October 9th. And Zester is 33 on October 10th. Well, happy early birthday to you and your son there, Nancy. And quite the fortuitous days. Carry 7. I have a hardware wallet made of chocolate. It's my Heath Ledger. That's a good one. That's a good one, Gary. Yeah, Nancy. Gary, you light up our smiles. Absolutely. All right. All right. Let's jump over to our last couple of articles, though, guys. Binance and Franklin Templeton join forces on tokenization ventures. Binance, the exchange, quite famous for all the drama over the years, but still one of the largest exchanges on the planet, especially outside of the United States, has partnered with crypto ETF issuer Franklin Templeton to explore the tokenization of securities combined with a global trading infrastructure. And so Binance, the world's largest crypto exchange by trading volume, has entered into a partnership with Franklin Templeton, primarily focused on the tokenization of securities combined with a global trading infrastructure. More and more of these partnerships popping up. We see it nonstop now. We see Trump family partnering with crypto.com. We see NASDAQ partnering with Gemini. We see Binance partnering with Franklin Templeton. We saw XRP partnering with JP Morgan. Where we're seeing this integration. We're seeing the combination, the combining of the old financial system occur in real time. From Franklin Templeton and Binance to the NASDAQ and Gemini, from the new Gemini card in regards to crypto, from PayPal going ahead and providing cryptocurrency payment rails for all small-time businesses, or essentially every business around the planet. It really has kicked into absolute warp speed. And so Binance, not going to probably see too much going on with Binance in the United States until that whole thing gets cleared up in the courts. But globally, Binance is the largest exchange, and they are partnering with a U.S.-based financial services provider. And so an indication that apparently Franklin Templeton doesn't think that the court cases against Binance hold water. All right, though, here we go for a funny one and a little bit of a frustrating one on this side. A little frustrating. The first U.S. DOGE ETF is to begin trading on Thursday. The era of meme coin exchange traded funds has begun in the United States, according to Bloomberg's Eric Baikunis. And so tomorrow, we will see the beginning of an ETF powered by Dogecoin. If anything, this is particularly funny. It is hilarious that we are going to have probably billions of dollars from traditional finance pour in to an ETF backed by nothing more than dog memes. Literally, the value of Doge is the value of the coolest doggy memes that can possibly be created and become viral on the different social medias. And we're going to see it now being publicly traded. What is frustrating about this is that there are currently like 7, 8, 9 different ETF approvals for XRP that are sitting on the SEC's desk, that I would much rather them go ahead and approve those XRP ETF requests than being approving ones on Doge. But let's take this and look at it from another side, look at it positively. If the SEC is going to approve ETFs for Doge, we can sit pretty comfortable in the fact that they're going to approve all of the ETFs for XRP. And so those that would be very frustrated by this in particular would be XRP and Solana. We covered this a few weeks ago. There are 92 current ETF approvals sitting on the SEC's desk. Apparently, there are now 91 because they approved the Doge ETF, but there are a vast majority of the ETFs that are currently sitting for approval are either for XRP or for Solana. And so frustrating to see Doge get to go first, but it does bode very, very well for the approval of the XRP ETFs that are coming up. Mile Hytrus is just unbelievable. The SEC is approving a Doge ETF. I agree. It is absolutely insane to think about. To imagine the evolution that we've gone through over the past decade in the cryptocurrency space is really unbelievable. If you were to try and convince me 10 years ago that this is where we would be in cryptocurrency, I would not believe you in the slightest. And yet we have gone through one heck of a roller coaster. And now we have gotten to the point where Doge is going to have its own publicly traded ETF. Absolute insanity. Absolute insanity. All right, Musical Lady, I see on X that Eric Trump stepped down from the board at World Liberty Financial. That was interesting to see. That one was Musical Lady, although apparently what they're saying is that Eric Trump is going to be taking a very, very active role in the crypto.com partnership between Trump's social media group. And so that is what I have been informed of, Musical Lady, is that Eric Trump is moving more of his efforts and most of his time over to Trump's social media group and their crypto ventures. But we will all probably see together in real time on that one. Crazy Tester, Doge has a $36 billion market cap. This is very, very true. This is very, very true. It may be built on memes, but it does not change the fact that Dogecoin, sitting at 24 cents a piece, does have a market cap of over $36 billion and has done over $2.5 billion in trading volume in the past 24 hours. And so, in all honesty, that is an extremely, extremely healthy and a massive, massive market. Hey, I imagine some people are going to succeed. Nancy K. Zester, will you be making meme coins for people or groups in the future? Nancy K., it's always been something that I've thought about. It would be a lot of fun. In all honesty, it would be a lot of fun. And I think people would get into it. But I am very fearful of people being accusatory or anything going wrong and folks saying that Zester did anything to try and take their money or mess with them. Ultimately, I can build the meme tokens so that there would be no way for anyone to influence it. It would be 100% safe. There would be no way for anyone to take or steal anything from it. But ultimately, I have always just been fearful that anything would go wrong. I don't want to be, the next Hawk Tua girl or something that puts something out and everything goes wrong and everybody blames them on it. But it is very, very easy, Nancy. And so, Nancy, if you would like a meme token, or if anyone would like a meme token, I'd be happy to make one. There really is nothing to worry about anymore. From a legal standpoint, the Trump administration essentially legalized meme tokens, regardless of what you do. And so, in all honesty, it's completely legal. I just worry about there being any issues where folks have problems, and I do not want to be the cause of anyone losing out on money or making a bad decision on something like that. So I don't know. I'm very interested. I'm intrigued by it. It would be a lot of fun, Nancy, but people would have to be very, very consciously aware that it is a meme token. It has no genuine value. It has as much value as we choose to place upon it. Gary7, if you need help with memes, let me know. Crazy Chester Clanker is a good tool for creating coins. There are lots of them out there nowadays. Or you can just deploy your own. If you're pretty decent with Solidity, or even if you're not even that decent with Solidity, you can also go through and actually deploy your own entirely independently, which I have gone and deployed cryptocurrencies independently before. You can also use the services. Pump.fun is the one that's very famous for allowing you to make a Solana-based meme coin for very, very cheap. They are quite famous for that one. They made a lot of money providing that service during the Solana meme coin craze. All right, here's an interesting one, and this is going to be our last article of the day. This one is more just a matter of, well, I find it interesting because, well, and I'm a big fan of it, and I believe it's going a long way. And so it was interesting to see who holds more of it. And so the undisputed XRP rich list. Now, first off, Ripple Labs themselves. Ripple Labs, the company, is the largest holder of XRP. They control around 42% of the total supply. And so XRP remains extremely, extremely centralized because 42% of the entire supply is currently held by the company. Now, of this 42%, 44.5 billion XRP is in liquid holdings for operational use. So these are things that they can just sell or do whatever they want with. 35 billion is locked in escrow. And that escrow, those 35 billion, typically 1 billion XRP is released per month. And so if we were to take that math in around 35 months, there will no longer be any XRP held in escrow. There will only be 35 plus 4.5 billion XRP sitting in liquid holdings for operational use for XRP or Ripple Labs themselves. As part of careful treasury management, Ripple doesn't flood the markets with fresh XRP every month. Instead, 60% or more of monthly unlocked funds are relocked, with the company not needing the full complement for operational costs. And so that does mean that 1 billion is typically released, but then a large portion of it is then relocked. And so, judging by this, expectations are Ripple Labs will probably forever remain the largest holder of XRP. Now, Chris Larson coming in at the number 2 slot with over 2.5 billion XRP coins, worth around $7 billion. He is, of course, Ripple co-founder and executive chairman. And so he was given most all of those coins for his work on the project. As you see, yep, Zach XBT there. XRP exchange powerhouses. So coming in at number 3, we have the third largest holders would be in the form of exchanges, with Upbit, the Korean giant, being the absolute XRP exchange leader with 6 billion XRP. Binance coming in second with 2.7 billion. And then interestingly, Coinbase has dropped substantially since Q2 of 2025 in regards to their XRP holdings. So Coinbase slashed holdings by 57% in a single month, while competitors continue to expand their reserves. So Upbit expanded, Binance expanded, Kraken and Gemini expanded, and yet Coinbase actually cut 57% of their XRP holdings in a matter of a single month. Now, moving beyond that to the 4th slot, we go over to whales. Momentum has been building as whales collect XRP. In June 2025, it hit another milestone where whales holding more than 1 million XRP reached 2,708 addresses. So there are 2,708 people who hold at least 1 million XRP coins. And now, something that is kind of interesting, if anyone ever just is curious, XRP Scan. This is a blockchain scanner. And so we've looked at these before, Etherscan for Ethereum. We've looked at other ones. But it does say, just as like an interesting little thing, that you can go in here and actually see exactly who have the largest balances. Wonder how that one is actually viewed inside of XRP Scan, but yeah, I wonder how many. Wonder how that one is actually verified on here. I'll have to go around and look for that one, because that one might be interesting just to have. But these blockchain scanners are intriguing all around, because you can come in and essentially see all of the data, and all the information is public on these blockchain explorers. And so you're able to see how many new wallets, how many transactions have gone on in a specific time period. Pretty much absolutely everything. How much XRP has been burned as a matter of fees over a year's time period, which is definitely a very interesting one. We definitely want to see this rate increase, as it has massively, massively decreased over the past month or so. But all right, with that one, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to post this article into the chat, just because I feel like some folks might be interested in learning a little bit about the richest of the XRP holders out there on the planet. I am going to go back to icing my ankle and catching up on everything that I have missed. I am definitely. And so with all of that, thank you guys so much for joining the stream this morning. I will be back over on the original Mark Z for Whiskey and Wisdom this evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If not, I will be back over here on the Crazy Cryptonaut on Friday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Shouldn't have anything come up like another ankle injury or a computer problem, so we should be good to go. Fingers crossed. Short of something crazy happening, I will be here Friday morning. And so love you guys. Thank you so much for joining. Everyone have an awesome, awesome rest of your Trump day. Peace.